When you hear about record retail sales, you think things must be good. And with such a low unemployment rate, they generally are. Retail sales jumped 0.9% in May and are 10.4% higher than May last year when COVID was not a factor. One issue is how much of the increased spending is on higher priced goods caused by inflation. Let's bring in here Michael Bate, Head of Retail at Commercial Property Agent Colliers. Michael, always good to chat to you about these issues. This is one of the points, isn't it, as to whether the retailers and, of course, even the shopping centres now, whether the shoppers are coming in and whether they can absorb the higher prices that inevitably are coming through the stores.
Yeah, it's always good to be with you, Ross, and it's a great point that you make. I don't think anybody expected 5 consecutive months of growth, but there we are. May 0.9% beat the analysts, and retailers unfortunately are going to have to pass on the increase in costs.
And so one of the points about this is you're talking to the retailers now, and I mean, you probably have as broad a spread of retailers among your client base as anybody. What are they telling you about their ability? Because there's also competition that holds down prices. But if you've got costs rising, you've got a shortage of staff, you're raising wages, you've got supply chains issues and raising prices there. How have they gone in terms of being able to raise those prices?
The simple answer is that most of the sophisticated retailers have got to pass on the inflationary costs. The cost of doing goods, led by the cost of petrol, the cost of manufacturing, the cost of transportation, is going to be passed on. Now, that's going to have an immediate impact on retailers' margins and retailers' profitability. Now, we're about to go into the reporting season, the 30 June reporting season. It's going to be very interesting to see how some of these active retailers are going to report how they're going to pass on these new costs that they're facing week in, week out.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because on our weekend program, I spoke with the head of McGrath Nickel, the head of insolvency there, and basically was talking to him about this issue about if you can't pass on the prices, then what happens? And of course, the inevitability is that either your profits are squeezed or you go out of business. Retailers been historically one of those areas that is vulnerable to any shocks that might take place. Are you feeling any of those pressures out there in the retail landscape right now?
No, we certainly are. Now, the first thing that goes is expansion. So anybody that had decent expansion plans coming out of the last 2 years of the pandemic, they will certainly be on hold. The second thing is the marketing and advertising. That's the first thing that usually gets hit. And your point about the unemployment rate is so true. The retailers are finding it so hard, right across the board, particularly food and bev, finding it so hard to find decent, skilled workforce to bump up their mood. And also, what I'm trying to say is, moving forward, what they're trying to do is put skilled labour in behind counters to take advantage of the growth that they've had for the first half of this year.
And tell me about the rents, because that's one of the other aspects of your business. You do a lot of the letting. And so what have rents done in the face of these record retail sales over the past 5 months?
Look, some of them have enjoyed good growth, and it's fair to say that in food and beverage, I don't think anybody saw the 5.1% increase in department store sales, particularly in May of all months. And if you'd have said it's coming in July when we have the end of financial year sales or the half yearly sales, there would have been some credibility behind it. But in terms of rents, most of the landlords and most of the owners have had 2 years of hardship, where they've had to be propping up a lot of retailers and assisting retailers with concessions. And this year, of course, most of them were looking forward to great growth. Now, inflation is going to slow down rental growth. There's no doubt about that. It will have a dramatic impact on the ability for landlords and also for owners to be getting decent rents throughout 22 and 23.
I'll tell you what's really interesting. Good to have you on the program, Michael, one of Australia's leading retail analysts and the head of retail at Colliers. Many thanks for your time.
Pleasure, Ross.